From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you into this Monday's edition of For the People for November the 20th, 2017. Just moments ago, I was watching the Fox monitor off to my right, off my console and microphone, and the president has finally declared North Korea a state sponsor of terror. And it should have been done like years ago, and I was really impressed because he invoked the name of William Warmbier, obviously lost his life. You know the story. They did something to him, just never woke up, regained consciousness. They probably beat him senseless or drugged him to something that he would never, like a nerve agent or something like that they're famous for. But let's see how that goes down the hatch with Kim Jong-un and his folks. But now we have 4 aircraft carriers in the Pacific, so it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to this particular news. But yeah, he is a monster. You talk about Charlie Manson being a monster. In comparison to Kim Jong-un and Manson was an angel. And I even hate to use that, but I'm saying as far as atrocities go, blood on his hands, both of them have a very hot place in hell. Yeah, Charlie Manson died in the hospital, by the way, over the weekend. Yesterday, as they say, natural causes. His organs were failing. Had some problems with his intestines and all other stuff, but he passed. Mel Tillis passed, and we're going to have a little tribute this hour to Mel Tillis as well. Another accuser, by the way, for Al Franken. Came across. There's just so many more folks, and Franken, he's not going to back down. He's not going to resign amid the sexual misconduct scandal, but his future in Congress remains unsettling amid more calls Sunday for congressional investigations into his potential Senator Roy Moore's conduct with women, him and Moore, both of them under scrutiny, as you can imagine, and for right reason. You don't do these particular things, no matter how many years it was. If you get found out, you should explain yourself. Like I say, you might have some forgiveness. And there's folks that have written me or sent me things in their disagreement with Roy Moore. And they don't say anything about Franken, though, because he's a Democrat. Seriously. Come on. Democrat, Republican, sleaze. Sleaze is sleaze. You're not going to be able to argue the point unless you want to belabor it and knock yourself out with ink. Or if you want to email me that point, doesn't matter. This is not what's on the left. It's not what's on the right. It's just sleaze is sleaze, folks. These people, if they did what they've done, let the information ride, let it come out. Folks tell me every day, this is a slippery slope, because what's going to happen is they know that they can get press, and they're afraid that everybody's just going to use this as a way of being able to take out their political operatives by saying or having somebody get paid for to say that they were molested or if they did something, and I could see that happening. That could be a reality of it. But it just seems like these accusations are true. And from the women of position, these are not people that live in the woods. These people have families. They have lives. These people don't seem like they have a bone to pick. It just seems like they've been living with these demons for a long time and just wanted to get it off their chest. But Al Franken, his time is going to be very short. He's going to have to step down because this is going to be a big headache. And if they don't do it, they have to show that this will bite them if they don't do something about it. And to believe me, they will. Just like the Republicans have distanced themselves for Roy Moore, they're going to have to do the same thing with it. In my opinion, I see it. They're going to have to distance themselves from this as another accuser steps forward to accuse Al Franken of sexual misconduct. So anyways, that's the latest on that. And we're watching the polls in Alabama, and it seems like it's kind of divided in the state for Roy Moore to see where that actually ends up. But supposedly there's going to be more accusers coming out before long. If you get a Dem in there, you're going to have higher taxes. Kellyanne Conway is saying that from the White House, so I don't know if that's a direct endorsement and ignoring and not saying anything about the Roy controversy. So Trump hasn't said anything directly, but through his senior advisor, he has, because she doesn't say anything unless it's approved, unless they've spoken about what she's going to talk about on the news channels. So it seemed to me that they are definitely looking at trying to reserve that seat. Now, if you're just looking at politics, great move. If that's exactly what it is, and if you're just thinking in politics, then you might just want to just let that one go. No matter how salacious, how damning it is, that you would take, the party and run with it. And, just because the mere fact you have people like George Soros, who is bankrolling untold millions of dollars around the country to get liberal activist judges elected. So if you look at it through that prism, if you look at it through that, the future of this country, of our democracy, of conservatism, we need the seat. We have to have him in. We're going to have to. Most people that I've spoken with in the great state of Alabama have said that they're going to bite their tongue. They're going to vote for Roy Moore because they don't see that the Dems going to be the option that's going to help our country, despite, if it's true, despite what people say. And there's people that have said they believe that Roy Moore has done what he's done. And there's just as many people on the left that have said that they're going to support the cause of Al Franken for that very same reason. Though Al Franken is not looking to become a senator, he already is. So, you have to pick your fights when it comes to this thing that we call politics, folks. And that's why it gets ugly and it gets dicey. And it would be nice if you could choose principle over party. It would be nice if that's how it really worked. If that's how it really worked, some people subscribe to that notion. Do we? Yes, we do. I say that Judge Moore, if any of these are correct, he should do the right thing, the honorable thing, and step down. And do the honorable thing and be embarrassed, go through it, get some help, bend some fences. I'm sure, his family's got to be scratching their heads saying, Dad, did you do this? Judge, did you do this? And Republicans all over the country are already shaking their heads. And by the way, here is another accuser who's come out against Roy Moore.
He tried to get me to touch him as well. And at that point, I pulled back and said that I was not comfortable, and I got dressed, and he took me home. but I was a 14-year-old child trying to play in an adult's world.
And he took advantage of it. Now, he's a gentleman, I guess. He drove her home, but it was very inappropriate. And she was telling her story. Do we discount that report? He was 30-something years old, messing around with a 14-year-old. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just sick to my stomach. Give me my Rolaids. Do they still make those? Or Tums? I don't know if they still have Rolaids. Maybe they do. I don't take many of them. I think they taste nasty. The media largely is ignoring a significant deal that happened when Trump was over the Asia Pacific, and mainly an $83.7 billion deal. Now, if you listen to the broadcast, you know that we reported that he made a lot of good deals. But did you know $83.7 billion deal? It's a game changer. Donald Trump helped broker with China a deal during his 12-day trip to Asia. He's going to create a lot of jobs with petrochemical projects in West Virginia. So if you're listening to in the great state of Virginia, West Virginia, over the next 20 years, Celino Zito said that in New York Post opinion piece on Saturday, if you got the New York Post, you may have seen this. I'm looking at it right now. President Donald Trump, along with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, they witnessed the signing of the memorandum of understanding between the West Virginia's Security of Common H. Wood Thrasher, a representative of China Energy. The investment is part of several Chinese investments totaling $250 billion. Yet, as Zito pointed out on BBC and CNN, they reported the story in their business section, and the New York Times ran a short Associated Press story giving a low-key placement and muted headlines. Now, what would have suspected that the prospect of an investment this large, nearly 3 times the total annual budget for the Department of Energy, would have been front-page news? And who says this? Paul Scatic, political science professor at Youngstown State University. He goes on, he says, the primary reason for the minor coverage, according to Zito, was because Trump did not tweet or mention anything promoting it. Instead, the media opted to cover his tweets blasting CNN in the verbal attacks between the president and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. However, the article maintained that the media hostility towards Trump could be a factor. As Zito pointed out, Trump had little to gain by making a deal to West Virginia if he was to woo voters, since the state is expected to vote solidly Republican in 2020. This suggested that he was perhaps intending to follow through on a campaign promise to bring more jobs to the U.S. economy. This deal suggested Trump hasn't forgotten what really matters to his base. But unfortunately, folks, with this report, few are giving him props. Few of them. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice has insisted that the state had offered no financial incentives to bring the deal to fruition. A deal that will bring jobs to a state that has been hit hard by job and population losses, as well as wage stagnation over the past 30 years. However, the lack of coverage failed to communicate significant positive economic changes for the American people. Once again, the media is missing the story that matters to the American people. Outside the liberal echo chamber, but if it would have helped if Trump, would have shouted about his own successes, the article concluded, Trump needs to remember that his megaphone isn't just for the haters, but for the voters who are desperate to finally see real change. I alluded to that fact the other day, that he needs to rethink the tweets. Like, the three UCLA basketball players would have been prime example to be able to tweet out something positive about race